Hello everybody, it's Mystic, and welcome back to my library. This is another episode of Let's Play Our Life Forever and Always, and I have 4 moments left from childhood, and then we are moving on to teenager. So we are going to start this up, and I don't know, I'm not really sure which one I want to do next. I think we are going to try Sleepover next. So let's do that one.
Okay.
All right, kids, we're done with dinner. Come to the table. Your stomach grumbled right on time, as if it had heard your mom's words. You halted your game and looked over. Mom was almost done setting the table. She was walking around mahogany wood in the process of putting down cutlery. Mommy was still in the kitchen, humming under her breath as she turned off the stove and put empty pots in the sink to wash. From beside you, Lizzie stirred, uncrossing her legs and standing up. She stretched her arms above her head. Finally, I'm ready to eat. They cast her a sly glance in your... Nope, that's not what she said. Then she cast a sly glance in your direction. You recognize that look. Last one to the table is a rotten egg. I haven't... But it was too late. Lizzie had already bolted towards the kitchen. You tried to catch up to her, you stayed sitting, you yelled out to her, or you threw a cushion at her. What would I have done? Because I absolutely, I've mentioned this before, Lizzie is my sister. My real life sister is very much like Lizzie, and I am very much like, video game me. So, I don't know. I wouldn't have tried to catch up to her because there would have been no point. She would have won. And if she didn't win, she would have gotten mad at me. So I will throw a cushion at her. Grabbing one of the cushions from the sofa, you threw it half-heartedly towards her in hopes of slowing her down. It wasn't firm enough, however, and the cushion landed with a plop on the ground instead. It was a short distance to the kitchen table. Lizzie managed to get there easily enough, slapping a hand over the wood. Mom moved just before Lizzie could bump into her. With an exasperated sigh, she resumed her work. I win again! You didn't win because you're racing by yourself, because you cheated. Okay, you won. You didn't bother trying to talk to her about it. Would have probably just done this one. I won. That means you're the rotten egg. Lizzie grinned, her hands on her hips, then looked over your shoulder. Cove, you think so too, right? You blinked. You'd almost forgotten about him. The fact that Cove preferred to keep to himself didn't help matters either. You spotted Cove still on the floor. His legs were crossed beneath him, the arm with the cast resting in his lap. He looked at the two of you with a slight frown. It felt sort of strange to see him still here so late. Tonight, Cove had come to your house for a sleepover. Your mom's and his dad had planned it a few days ago. You weren't surprised. You'd overheard your moms discussing it before. You hadn't expected it when your moms told you, but you didn't mind Cove sleeping over. The idea made you uncomfortable. He was going to sleep in your room. I'm going to go with this one, because I wouldn't have had a problem with it, but I also probably would have been surprised. It's just for one night. Even if he's not really your friend, he isn't the worst person in the world. Cove pursed his lips at Lizzie's question, but he didn't respond. Maybe he was planning on ignoring her. Not that Lizzie would make it easy.
Come on.
Well, did I win or what? Cove still didn't respond. He turned away, refusing to weigh in. Lizzie glowered, but it had no effect. Fine. You don't have to say so. You can both be rotten eggs. That's enough. Nobody here is a loser or a rotten egg. You're each farm fresh. Which is a sentence I never thought I'd say.
All right.
Now, listen to Mom and come sit at the table for dinner, all 3 of you. You and Lizzie obeyed, sitting across from each other at the edge of the table. Lizzie blew a raspberry at you and Mom turned her back. Your parents brought the last of the food, then they took their seats further down the table instead of sitting right next to you and Lizzie. Only Cove was left out. He had stood up from his spot on the floor, but he hadn't made his move towards the kitchen. Cove, you can sit too. Slowly, he eyed the 4 seats that were left. Thanks to the new seating arrangement your parents chose, 1 free chair was beside you, another next to Lizzie, and the last 2 were on the other side of where your moms were sitting. Yeah, sit next to me. He hung his head a little and scuttled past you, Lizzie, and your moms. He went to the chair on the opposite edge of the table and sat down. It seemed being far away is what he wanted. Your moms frowned. You shrugged it off and turned back to your plate. Now that everyone was situated, Mommy began to pass out the plates.
Okay.
Dig in, kids. I cooked a little bit of everything for dinner tonight. Be sure not to avoid all of the veggies.
Ugh.
Yes, Mom. Each person at the table served themselves except for one. Cove hesitated again. He fidgeted with his hands clamped on top of his knees. He didn't seem very comfortable doing stuff in someone else's house. One dish seemed to have his eye, at least. That's pineapple chicken. Oh my god, pineapple chicken is so good. Want to try some? Not really. Sorry. By then, your moms had noted that Cove still had nothing on his plate as well. Do you not like any of the food, honey?
Well,
Maybe he hasn't tried Hawaiian food before. He hasn't? Wow. Please don't talk with your mouth full, Lizzie. Lizzie swallowed the bite she was eating. Then she spoke again. He should try it now. She turned to Cove dramatically. Unless you want to shrink, that's what happens if you miss a meal. Elizabeth, that's not true, and you know that. Cove squirmed under all the attention. He fidgeted with a fork between his fingers. I've had some things, just not any of this.
oh shoot.
Oh, shoot. I knew I should have asked your dad what your favorite foods were. It's all right, Lonnie. Maybe he'll find a new favorite today. You weren't so sure about that. Cove didn't look like he was going to be trying the food anytime soon. You let your moms handle this. I think you would like the pineapple chicken. It's yummy. Give me your plate. You should try something new. What would I have done? I think I would have probably tried to convince him to try the pineapple chicken, but at the same time, he seems a little hesitant. I'm going to maybe say this one because there's other options aside from the chicken. Aren't you tired of eating the same old things? Am I talking to my 9-year-old? This is how I talk to I have to say this to my 9-year-old almost every night. This child would live off of chicken nuggets and hot dogs and pizza if he could. He's not allowed to, but he could. So, yeah, this is hitting close to home. Aren't you tired of... Oh, I already said that. You were only trying to help, but it seemed to make Cove even more resistant to tasting any of the dishes. He sat back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest stubbornly. Actually, Cove is probably about 9, I would think. Maybe it's a thing that 9-year-olds go through. I don't know. I like the same old things. Mom shook her head over the debacle that was becoming. This was becoming. New isn't always exciting for everyone, but it could be this time, Cove. You shrugged. You didn't understand how someone wouldn't want to eat all of the delicious dishes on the table in front of you. And this is exactly what I would have done, because as a child, I was not picky. I literally would try anything, which is actually how my 11-year-old is. So I've got one of each, basically. Mommy took the lead, suggesting a couple of things that Cove might like to try, and soon enough he had a small pile of food on his plate. At first, Cove poked the food. Clearly, he was apprehensive to eat something new, but he took a few exploratory bites.
Right?
It's good, isn't it? You don't have to keep asking. He still speared more meat with his fork and ate it, chewing thoughtfully. It's not bad. Mommy grinned at his words, satisfied, even though it wasn't exactly a glowing commendation. Lizzie wasn't as mollified. You're so weird. Don't be mean to your friend. We're not friends. Oh. Mommy floundered in the face of Cove's blunt honesty. It seemed strange your mommy was taken aback by the news. When had they gotten along? And you didn't consider yourself to be friends with him either. As far as you were concerned, he was your neighbor and nothing else. Your mommy looked at Mom and only got a shrug.
No.
Elizabeth, don't call someone weird. There's no such thing as weird as a weird person and non-weird person. There's just different perspectives. It's not a nice thing to say to anyone, but Pam... Mommy tried to whisper exclusively to Mom. Her attempt to make it audible over the sounds of clanking silverware meant you caught the quiet words anyway. They're not friends. He said so. As parents, we can only try, and sometimes we fail. Not all kids will be thick as thieves. Now, less talking and more eating, kids. You need to clean up and start winding down for bed soon. But Mom... No buts. We've talked about this. Your bedtime will be moved back in a few years. For now, you don't get to stay up late. Lizzie sulked, muttering under her breath and how it wasn't right. You laughed at Mom's phrasing. You groaned about it as well. You stayed quiet and finished your meal. Okay, so 9-year-old, again, my 9-year-old would have been arguing this too. I didn't really mind going to bed. I actually kind of liked it. So I'm going to stay quiet. It was good food and you were pretty content to just keep eating. That's the idea. Good job, Christina. Everyone else get used to it. Or get to it. The rest of dinner passed by uneventfully. Cove was silent for most of it, even when your moms attempted to include him in conversation. All too soon, the table was cleared, the games in the living room were put away, and you were all steered to your bedrooms. Mom finished tucking you in and kissed your brow just as Mommy poked her head into the room. All ready for lights off, you two? You are lying comfortably in your bed, the blanket hiked up over your armpits. You could kick it off later if it got too hot. Mom had set up the sleeping bag on the floor for Cove, just beside your bed. He was already wiggled inside. I think so.
Good night.
Perfect. I'll go say goodnight to Lizzie then. Mom tweaked your nose, chuckled when you squawked in annoyance, and left. Mommy took her place, sitting on the edge of your bed.
Sweet dreams.
She pressed a soft kiss on your forehead. You giggled as the strands of her hair fell forward and kissed and tickled you. Oh no! Oh no, what did I do? I double-clicked. Didn't mean to do that. Hang on. Log. Mommy smiled down affectionately at you, then moved her attention to Cove, who watched from his spot on the floor. Do you need anything before falling asleep, honey? What does your dad do? Sometimes he picks me up and lifts me really high, and he shakes his hand like he's gonna let go, but he catches me again. He keeps doing that until sometimes he does drop me on the bed, or other times he lowers me down and we pretend like I'm crashing. Cove had become pretty excited when talking about how the nightly ritual he and his dad shared. He seemed to realize how animated he was and bashfully quieted. But I don't want to do that here.
Aww.
Oh, how fun! Though I think you're right that it might not be a good idea to do that tonight. The sleeping bag might not be as soft enough of a landing. If there's anything else, you can always ask me or Christina's other mom. But I'm the nicer one. Just don't tell her that. She laughed good-naturedly and stood up.
Take care.
Sleep well, Cove. Night. Leaning against the door jamb, she rested a hand on the switch light and looked at you. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. With a last smile, Mommy turned off the lights and stepped out. Closing the bedroom door behind her, you listened to the footsteps fade as she walked down the hallway. You closed your eyes and snuggled in, prepared to drift off. You started when Cove sighed deeply. You turned your head to look in his direction. In the dark, you could see only a faint outline of a lump under the covers. Cove? What's wrong? What was that? Could you be less loud? Could you be quiet? Stop that. What's wrong? I can't sleep. Why not? He shifted, or at least you thought he did. You couldn't see anything since your eyes were still adjusting to the dark, but you heard his sleeping bag rustle. I want to be in my bed. Oh. Cove sat up, and your eyes had gotten used to the low light level, so you can see him better. He got out of the sleeping bag, wobbled towards your bedside table, and pulled open the top drawer. What is it? I'm getting my glasses. You sat up too, watching as he reached inside. He paused for a second, then pulled his hand out. Instead of his glasses, though, he was holding a book. Cove turned it around in his hands, trying to figure out the proper orientation for it. You knew, even without reading the title, which one it was. That one was your mom. That was one your moms would read to you. It was special. Be careful, that's mine. I thought you were looking for your glasses, and what are you doing with that? This one. I was. Then I felt this. It looks cool. The compliment he afforded your special book had you grinning, your confusion forgotten. It is really cool. Oh yeah? What's it about? It's a story about a squire who wants to become a knight, and there's magic. Does it have mermaids? No, but I love the main character because the squire's really brave and funny. It has cool pictures. Some of them even take up the whole page. Mommy reads it to me. She uses different voices for every character. There's a dragon in it, and crazy things happen. I'm gonna say this one. But they're stuck working for the knight who's rude to them. Which, by the way, I tend to really like the characters in books, and that's kind of what drives my love of certain books. Is it tends to be character-focused stuff. So that's why I picked that one. Nobody believes they can be a knight, but that doesn't stop the squire. So they go on an adventure to show the king they're worthy. You only realized afterward that you spoke more strongly than you had meant to. Your cheeks burned. This must have been how Cove felt earlier. Thankfully, Cove didn't seem annoyed. In fact, if you didn't know any better, it seemed like he liked the explanation. Usually, Cove sported a disinterested expression on his face, or a sad one. You could probably count the number of times you'd seen him smile on one hand. Right now, though, he looked excited as he flipped the book over and focused on the backside trying to learning more. You were reminded of the hours you'd spent hearing the tales. No matter how many times you read it or had it read to you, you were still entertained by the story and pictures inside. You glanced out the window. The moon was high in the sky. It was definitely the time when you were supposed to be asleep. You couldn't keep staying up. You wanted to read the book with Cove. Oh, absolutely would read the book with Cove. You climbed out of bed and padded over to your side table. You opened it and rummaged around, pushing aside stuffed toys and crayons. Cove called out to you in a confused whisper.
What
are you doing? Getting something we need. You let out a quick cry of victory when you found what you were looking for. You jumped back onto the bed before any hidden boogeyman could catch you unaware. Cove continued to watch as you... Oh no, I did it again! Dang it! Cove continued to watch as you wiggled your way beneath your blanket you discarded earlier. You pulled it up over your head. What's... You have to come here. Bring the book too. Oh, this is so cute. After a minute, the bed dipped as Cove got on it, then the blanket shifted. You fiddled with the flashlight in your grip, feeling for the switch. With a small click, the space flooded with a bright light. Cove sputtered, putting a hand up to shield himself from the beam. Move it somewhere else. Sorry. You hurriedly tilted the flashlight so it was shining down at the floor of your blanket cave and away from Cove's sensitive eyes. Now we can read, and my moms won't know. I do this all the time. I honestly, I did. This is how I used to do this at night, because, like, I would always want to keep reading, but my parents would tell me to go to bed. Like, I liked going to bed, but this is why I liked going to bed, because I could, hide under my covers and read a book. I don't stay up for too long because Mom or Mommy come to check on me sometimes, but I haven't been caught yet. Do you want to try? Cove nodded, pleased by his straightforward response. You placed the book between you and flipped it open to the first page. Meanwhile, he lay down on his belly and shuffled closer, picking up the flashlight to shine it on the pages. His face was illuminated with a warm glow. You mirrored his position, leaning in so you could see the book better, your foreheads nearly brushed until you shuffled back a comfortable distance. You wanted the story to be narrated. You thought it was best to take turns reading the book silently. You flipped through the pages to show Cove the cool pictures. I'm going to go with this one. I know everybody reads at their own pace, but I don't think we would want to make too much noise. So we're going to do it this way. Here. You turned the book around so it was right side up for Cove. You can read a page and then I'll read it and we can keep switching like that. He nodded with a bit of hesitance. Cove tugged the book closer towards him. Then he began to read. You saw his mouth form the words as he whispered them under his breath, inaudible to you. After some time, he was finished reading the first page. He took a few moments to admire the picture covering half the page, then slid the book back to you.
Okay.
Your turn. You continued this way until you were a quarter of the way into the tale. The next time it was Cove's turn, you yawned, resting your chin atop your crossed arms. Idly, you studied Cove. His eyes were following the text, a soft smile lighting up his features. A lock of his hair fell into his field of vision, but he gave it no notice. He was lost in the story. Your eyelids started to droop. When your eyes opened again, your bedroom was pitch black and silent. Your head was smushed to your pillow, your pajamas were sticking to you, and your mouth was dry. Slowly, you raised yourself up to your elbows. You yawned, the back of your throat twinging as you did so. You rolled onto your side to sit up in bed, planning on getting water from the kitchen, when you saw a dark shape towering above you. You froze. Then you remembered you weren't alone in your room tonight. Cove? That you?
Yeah.
You shifted and felt something cylindrical pressed against your thigh. You fumbled for it. The familiar weight of the flashlight pressed into your palm. You turned it on. Cove blinked at you, looking exhausted. He was in his normal clothes again, shoes and everything. His pajama pants were left on the floor, abandoned. His sleeping bag was in a similar state. What is it? Can't sleep. I keep waking up. Did you have a bad dream? He shook his head from side to side. No, just can't sleep. It's weird here. You frowned. You helped your moms redecorate it only a few months back. I like my room. It's weird to me. I want to sleep in my bed. I'm gonna go. What? That shook off the last of your doziness. He was going to walk outside back to his own house? This time of night? All by himself? He noted your shocked expression and looked at you with resolve. My dad will let me in, and I've got outside late before, and I have to go. Well, if you have to, you don't have to. I'll come with you. I should tell my moms. I absolutely would do this, not gonna lie, because I wouldn't want to be the one sneaking out or letting my friend do it. No, I don't want you to. I'll just leave. My dad can call them in the morning. You knew that you could just let him go, but something inside you was saying that that wouldn't be the right thing to do. It's too late for you to go outside on your own. It'd be bad. Cove grumbled quietly, though stayed put. Okay, you can tell them. I'll wait. Good. When you crept into their room, Mom was still up reading in bed while Mommy had already fallen asleep. When Mom woke Mommy up, they were both surprised to hear that Cove wanted to leave, and the two of them followed you back to your room to see him.
Sweetie.
Cove, are you all right, sweetie? Is there anything we can do to help? Look at her little hoodie thing. That's so cute. Mommy sounded tired after having just woken up, but she smiled at Cove kindly. Cove shook his head firmly, not meeting anyone's eyes as he did so. I just want to go home. We're sorry you don't feel comfortable staying. How about you come downstairs with us and we'll call your dad to come get you? Cove headed past your mom's and out the room. Mom turned to you before leaving, not reading. All right, off to sleep, kiddo. We'll make sure Cove is taken care of. Good night again. Good night, Christina. You listened to the sounds of their footsteps on the stairs as you huddled back down in bed, pulling your blanket up around your shoulders. It didn't bother you that Cove had left. At least now you didn't have to worry he would snore and keep you awake all night. Eventually, your eyes started to get heavy, and with a loud yawn, you finally got comfortable in your bed and drifted off to sleep. The next morning, you were awoken by the sound of Mom's voice and a soft shake on your shoulder. Christina, wake up! It's time to get up and at 'em! The sun was peeking through your curtains, and you rubbed at your eyes as they adjusted to the new light. Mom sat down on the bed next to you, and you blinked at her for a moment confused. You blinked at her for a moment confused until you caught the empty sleeping bag on the ground and remembered what had happened during the night. Mr. Holden came over to pick Cove and take him home. You should have seen his hair when he turned up, half asleep. It was even messier than Mommy's in the morning. She chuckled at the thought, and you could tell she was trying to make you feel better about the whole situation, so you smiled back at her.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know that Cove wasn't feeling good, Christina. That was a nice thing to do. You nodded in agreement, and Mom went to say that maybe once Cove started to feel more comfortable, that he could try and sleep over again sometime. You shrugged the idea off, not particularly caring if that happened anytime soon or not. You could have told your parents they shouldn't have tried to do this in the first place. Of course, it wouldn't end well. The next time you saw Cove and Mr. Holden, they both apologized for Cove having suddenly left. You assured them that it was okay. In the end, the two of you and your parents were eventually able to move past the ill-fated sleepover. It had all been a learning experience according to the adults. You could accept that. There were definitely things you learned from it. All right, next up, let's try Runaway. After a couple of hours at the playground by yourself, it had gotten firmly into the afternoon. You were on the swing set with your feet buried in the sand when you spotted Lizzie in the distance. She was running over like something was on her tail, chasing her. You knew she would be coming, but was she that excited to get to the park? Instead of nabbing the swing beside yours, Lizzie stopped in front of you. She bent over, balanced her hands on her knees, and panted. Did you hear? Hear what? Lizzie bounced back up, her eyes wide. You only saw her this worked up when she found the new hiding place of Mom's sugar stash. It's about Cove. Cove? Lizzie rarely brought him up herself, and never with this much urgency. What was it about? You listened, confused, as Lizzie explained. I just came out when I saw lots of people gathered around in the middle of the street. They were talking kind of quietly, so I don't think I was supposed to hear, but that means it was important. So I snuck up, and I heard everything. She paused dramatically. Clearly, she wanted to say something. So, what did you hear? Tell me. I don't really care. You just look back at her. Tell me. Lizzie raised her eyebrows at your insistence, and she continued easily. Cove is missing. What? He left a piece of paper for Mr. Holden to tell him he was going away and would be gone for a long time, and no one's seen him since. Now they're searching the whole neighborhood. The grown-ups were even saying that if they don't find Cove soon, they'll call the police. The police? You had seen police officers around town now and then, but you had never talked to one before, much less dealt with them. It was an intimidating thought. Was Cove going to be arrested for running away? You watched as your sister began to pace in front of you. I know Mom said Cove was sad about moving here, but running away from home is crazy.
Jeez.
Where else is he gonna go anyway? I don't know. I want to find him. I hope someone finds him soon. Yeah, I'd go to tons of places. You didn't answer her. Let's see if we can help find him. Lizzie scrunched up her face, thinking deeply for a moment. Then she nodded and planted her hands on her hips, determined. I'm gonna look too. You are? We can play at the park any day, and the more people there are looking, the quicker someone will find him. Maybe I'll be the one who does. I'm the best at hide and seek after all. It seemed like Lizzie wanted to look not only because she was concerned about Cove, but also because it was the most interesting thing to happen this week. Wish me luck! Before you could say anything, she ran off in the opposite direction from where she came. You were left in the dust in a matter of moments. That was your sister for you. But Lizzie's appearance in this crisis faded to the back of your mind just as quickly. Cove. He told his dad he was leaving to go somewhere by himself. It was surprising news at first, but that sounded like something he'd do when you'd considered it again. Unfortunately, you had no idea where he could have gone. You thought hard. There were the hills behind your house. He had gone there the first time you met. But someone would have checked there already. They wouldn't need the police for that. Cove must be far away, or hiding somewhere if the whole neighborhood was looking for him. You swung back and forth, your lips pursed in contemplation. If I were Cove, where would I go? Lizzie had said Cove was crazy for running away from home, but he never considered Sunset Bird his home, did he? His real home was somewhere else. There was only one place that came to mind that might be important enough for Cove to go off like this. It was a good idea, except how was he going to get there? Could he take a bus? Was he going to walk the whole way? You didn't know what direction he needed to take. But wait, there was only one way he could go. Going down the street just led to the beach, so that couldn't be right. Going to either side would mean he'd get stuck by buildings and fences and big slopes like the one behind your house. That left going up the street. You knew that road. It led onto the main part of town and kept going all the way to the city limits. Cove didn't know the area well. You didn't think he'd want to go off that road onto some random other street, which meant if someone followed the path, they might find him somewhere along it. The grown-ups seemed to all be looking in the neighborhood, so you had to tell them where to search. Oh yeah, I would absolutely not do it by myself. You rushed to where you had abandoned your flip-flops and slipped them on. They slapped against the sand as you left the playground. On your way home, you spotted Mom almost instantly. She must know about Cove and was looking too, because she was wearing a worried frown. Her expression cleared up when she saw you walking towards her. Christina, I'm glad you're here. Cove is... She cut herself off, sighing deeply. Why don't you head inside? I need to stay out for a bit longer. Something is going on right now, but we'll take care of it. Mom tried to usher you into the house, but you didn't budge from where you stood. Mom, I might know where Cove is.
What?
What? How did you even find out he's missing? She shook her head before you could answer. You know what? That's not important right now. Where is it, Christina? You told her a hunch. She listened intently. The main street. That's not good. I'll drive down there to make sure he doesn't get far. Mom muttered that more to herself than you, but you heard her all the same. Can I come with you? Is Cove gonna be okay? I'll stay at home now. I probably... Can I come with you? Because this is, like, when it's something like this, I feel like I would want to go just to see if I could help. Mom turned back to you and shook her head.
I'm really sorry.
I'm sure you're worried about Cove, and that's good, but I need you to wait at home with Mommy. If I find him, I'll bring him straight here, okay? You were disappointed, but you nodded. She stroked your cheek, smiling softly. Mom guided you to the house with a hand on your shoulder. You both went in. Mommy appeared quickly. She must have been waiting nearby. There was a phone in her hand. It worried you, thinking about who she might have been talking to. Mom briefly explained what happened before she grabbed the car keys. Mommy saw her out. Soon after, you were herded into the kitchen. You sat at the table while Mommy microwaved leftovers, which you gobbled up. You hadn't even realized how hungry you were. The two of you settled into the living room after that. Mommy put a cartoon on the TV for you to watch while you waited. You snuggled up against her side as you watched the show, warm and safe. Your mind was still on Cove. Would Mom find him out there in town, or was he actually somewhere else? You didn't have to wait long to find out. Halfway through the episode, you heard the front door unlock. Then it swung open with a shout. We're here! I've got him, Lonnie! Come on in, Cove. You didn't stir from the couch at first, not sure what to do, but Mommy got up, so you followed her. Mom was putting the car keys away. Cove stood nearby with his head bowed. You squinted to get a better look at him. Cove looked exhausted. His eyes were rimmed red, nearly matching his glasses, and there were dried tear tracks stuck on his cheeks. And a backpack was slung over one of his shoulders. He really had planned on running away. Oh, thank goodness you found him. Yes, he was way down Main Street, just like Christina said. Cove shuffled his feet at that, but he remained silent. You could tell that he felt out of place. You weren't the only one who noticed his discomfort.
Okay.
You must be tired, Cove. You can sit down wherever you like. Mommy smiled warmly and motioned him to the living room. Cove looked up at her and then lumbered over. You walked close behind him, frowning. Cove was always pretty quiet, but this was a different kind of quiet. The living room wasn't far or separated by a wall, so you heard your moms talking softly. He wanted to go see his mother. Oh, poor thing.
Well...
That explains it, at least. Still, I'm not sure it excuses it. It was so dangerous to go off into town like that. He's having a hard time right now. You can't expect a child to handle it maturely. True, it can't be helped. But that's enough of that. We should tell Cliff and the others that he's here before the panic gets out of hand. There could be riots.
Is that all right?
I'll call. Then I'll go to the front to tell everyone still out there. You keep an eye on the kids. Make sure they don't take any more trips today. Got it, hun. Cove just sat there on the couch, setting his backpack down beside him. He stared at his hands. This is so weird. What is? Everyone was looking for me. They all know I tried to leave. I kind of wanted to run away and not come back this time, so I don't have to see them again. Hey, maybe I should try that. That isn't going to help. They'll forgive you. Please never run away again. This one. Cove looked guilty for even suggesting that, despite it not being serious. I won't. Not for real. When it seemed silence would descend upon the two of you, the front door opened. Your mom was back with Mr. Holden close behind her. He made a beeline for the couch, his gaze trained on his son.
Cove?
Cove, God, are you all right? Strands of his hair had fallen out of his ponytail. His eyes were darkened, like he'd been crying too. Cove stared up at his dad. His own eyes were wide behind the frames of his glasses. He hadn't really expected it to be such a big deal. I'm okay. Good. That's good. I'm so glad to hear that. He clasped a hand on his son's shoulder, attempting a smile, but the corner of his lips twitched and spasmed as if they wanted to wilt into a frown instead. Cove seemed to have that effect on him. Mr. Holden turned to you, still grinning weakly, then looked at your moms. Thanks for your help, as always. He laughed pitifully.
I'm sorry.
And I'm very sorry for ruining your afternoon with this. I can't apologize enough.
It's okay.
It was no trouble, Cliff. Really. It couldn't be helped, in a way. Something was bound to happen sometime. We're just happy we could help and that Cove is safe and sound. Not for the first time that day. You recalled your original meeting with Cove. He had run away then, too. Only not as far as he had today. Cove must have had a similar thought because he mumbled an apology. Sorry, Dad. I won't leave anymore. Promise. Some life seemed to return to Mr. Holden thanks to his promise. This time around, his smile was more genuine.
I'm so glad.
That's a relief to hear. Next time you feel like running off, come to me first, okay? We can talk about it. I'm here for you. Cove nodded. His dad reached out and mussed his hair playfully. Although he made a face, Cove didn't try to dodge his hand as he usually did. Let's go home, bud. I bet you're as tired as I am. Mr. Holden took over carrying Cove's backpack, still clasping a free hand on his son's shoulder when he stood up from the couch. The five of you walked over to the front door so you could see them off. Mr. Holden thanked your moms profusely at least 3 more times before he walked out the door. Cove was made to follow. But he stopped and turned to you before stepping through the threshold.
Thanks.
Thanks, Christina. Aw, I didn't do anything. Your mom said you were the one who told her where to get me. It was good that I went back. A tiny smile flitted across his lips, there and then gone. And with that, Cove left. Mommy closed the door behind them. You were left feeling overwhelmed. Your fatigue must have been obvious because your mom sent you off for a nap with no more discussion on what had happened that day. Once your head hit the pillow, your eyes slipped closed on their own. After the nap, everything else was a blur. You were settled into bed for real later that night in what felt like just a couple of moments. You woke up much more at ease than you had felt when you were last conscious. It was almost like it was a dream. But it definitely wasn't. Your mom's faces when you saw them assured that. After breakfast, as you were sat down and your family went over yesterday's events in full, they were pleased that you came to them the moment you had an idea of where Cove disappeared to. As a reward, your mom's promised to take you and Lizzie out for a treat later. It was more than a welcome change from the worry you'd be dealing with. Mr. Holden talked to Cove about what happened too. You didn't know what was said exactly, but Mr. Holden forgave Cove immediately. He didn't do anything to punish Cove for running away. He blamed no one but himself for Cove's desire to leave home. You caught your moms discussing it once in hushed tones, frowning at each other. It was pretty serious. There was a word used you hadn't heard before, self-flagellation. But there wasn't anything they could do to change Mr. Holden's mind. Your neighbors stopped you and Cove often for the next week or so to express their concerns and disapproval of the event. Still, as they always did, days continued to pass. So did talk about Cove running away. Things eventually returned to normal as they had to. Summer kept going, and you kept having experiences you shared with Cove. All right, I think that is where I am gonna stop here. I actually do plan on having a second one up this week as well. I'm gonna finish up Childhood, probably get it recorded tomorrow, and then hopefully have it up on the weekend so that you can get 2 videos this week instead of 1. And yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you did, and I will see you next time. Bye!